Hello everyone, Dr. Suneel Dhand, internal medicine physician. Welcome to another video. 4 massive lies that the medical profession told me. Now, as a physician, I don't take any pleasure in going through this list, but for those of us who are truly awake to the ways of the world, especially over the last few years, we know who the most frequent offenders really are for spreading misinformation and concepts which are just not true. Now, for this list, I'm going to focus on diet and nutrition recommendations. As a doctor who specializes in lifestyle medicine and metabolic health, that's what I would like to do. Obviously, there are a lot of other very flawed and shady recommendations out there which don't quite follow the real science with regards to drugs and therapeutics, but I'm going to focus on diet and nutrition. And I'm not that old, but I would say that anyone from the age range of their 30s all the way up to the 70s or 80s may recognize some of these recommendations that they have been given over the last few decades. Number 1, eat margarine and not butter. My goodness, how many of us grew up with that recommendation? Margarine is supposedly much better for your heart and your vascular system. It contains a quote-unquote healthier fats, whereas butter contains saturated fat. You must avoid it. And I remember hearing this all the time growing up. I used to put margarine on my toast. I used to eat margarine with other foods because I thought, I had been told anyway, that it was much better for you. Avoid butter, minimize butter intake. Fast forward to now, and I do anything to avoid margarine. I will not touch it because the general rule is that anything which is man-made, artificially synthesized in a factory, is never going to be better for you than something which is natural. So full fat, organic butter it is for me every single time now. I do not touch margarine, and I do not believe that the evidence by any stretch of the imagination supports the use of margarine over butter. Number 2, eggs are bad for you. Eggs are really bad for you. They are high in saturated fat. The yellow of the egg, the yolk, is high in cholesterol. You should avoid that. How many of us heard that recommendation for decades and decades? And I remember actually growing up, I know this is totally going to be wasted on my American audience, but there was a scene in Only Fools and Horses, one of the greatest British comedies ever made, where Del Boy was being chastised for eating eggs because they were supposedly bad for his heart. Millions and millions of people thought that for a long, long time. And the reason why, it links to the margarine recommendation as well. And I've talked about this before. It goes way back to the middle of the last century and some deep-rooted corruption starting in the United States, which was all part of the lipid hypothesis, and it helped to make food corporations very rich indeed. But I do not believe eggs are bad for you. I believe they are a superfood, and I eat 4 to 5 eggs on most days. I believe they are a superfood. They really are packed with great nutrients and also contain a good amount of protein. I only eat high quality eggs, organic, pasture raised. Treat the hens well and they will produce good, high quality eggs. Number 3, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. How many authorities have we heard say that? Well, of course, it's the most important meal of the day for food corporations who have made a ton of money, billions and billions of dollars over the years, pushing people to have pro-inflammatory, sugary, addictive cereal first thing in the morning to help with their bottom line. But really, is breakfast the most important meal of the day from a scientific standpoint? Is there any other animal in nature which gets up in the morning and eats first thing? There is a ton of evidence out there that the longer you fast in the morning, the better it is for your metabolism. And that's why I wait to eat my first meal of the day. And I rarely eat a big breakfast. My bigger meal comes much later in the day. For me, breakfast is certainly not the most important meal of the day, and I don't believe that that statement has any evidence behind it. I remember there was a time when I used to eat a sugary cereal first thing in the morning because that's what the system wanted. That's what the establishment wanted. But thank goodness I woke up and I realized that there was no evidence behind that, and I actually felt better when I didn't eat sugar first thing in the morning and I waited before I ate my first meal. That was my own experience, and I'm so glad I don't do that anymore. Absolutely terrible advice right there, to eat a good breakfast first thing in the morning. If it was that important, other animals in nature would be doing it as well. Number 4, supplements are useless. I grew up hearing this all the time. I even heard it while I was learning medicine. There's no evidence behind taking supplements. Well, one can understand why large swathes of the medical establishment wouldn't want people to be on supplements which are natural, because of course we know that large segments of the medical establishment are in lockstep with big pharmaceutical companies. That is how they make money. So of course they're not going to want to promote natural supplements, many of which have been used successfully for thousands of years. And I do not believe at all the blanket recommendation that most supplements are completely useless. I think that there are a lot of supplements which are very good and bring a lot of benefits for people, especially the anti-inflammatory, antioxidant supplements, and I can certainly talk about them in more detail in a future video. So there you go then. Those are just 4 recommendations which were given for many decades that many people followed, including myself, which are complete and utter nonsense. They are myths, they are big lies, and if you go back long enough, you can often find corruption led to those recommendations. It's very sad indeed. And of course, this poses the question, well, what is going on right now? What are we being told to do? Which is completely wrong and not backed up by any evidence. Really makes you wonder, but undoubtedly there are many such recommendations out there. And as for the medical profession, now many doctors are very hardworking, want to do the right thing, but my goodness, the profession really does have a reputation for arrogance and having an awful lot of blind spots. Thanks everyone for listening. Let me know your thoughts down below. Feel free to comment. What else do you think we are doing right now which we shouldn't be doing, which is based on very bad recommendations, whether it's diet, nutrition, or anything else? Feel free to leave me a note down below. I appreciate all of your comments. Remember, when it comes to health and well-being, it's all about those small everyday steps which can yield enormous benefits over time. Do not negate the effects of making small changes all the time and it adding up to huge differences for your physical and mental health. Ideally, simple, everyday, natural steps that don't require medications that come with a whole host of side effects. That is always the best way to do things. Thanks everyone again. Dr. Suneel Dhand. Check out my online academy and my uncensored platform. Those links are down below. Hit the like button if you like this video and the bell button for more similar videos in the future. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone, and we will talk again very soon.